This morning, we're having a conversation on the sharing of mineral revenue with county government. The Deputy Governor of the County Government of Taita, Taveta, is with us in the studio this morning. MAJALA MLAGUI, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's so exciting to be in the Situation Room.
Well, Karibu, it's good to have you here this morning. I thought to myself earlier when I said, okay, hold on a minute. The Deputy Governor, County, Taita, Taveta County, who might this be? And then here you are.
Imagine that.
I know. Many questions. Many questions to be asked and of course many to be answered. But thank you and welcome to the hot seat. It is hot because there are very many issues to be discussed here. Mineral resources, especially from your county and this area, have been in the limelight for the longest time. And questions have always been, look, should we say that the residents and communities of these areas should then be the ones who enjoy these first before they go national? Or should there be some kind of sharing? So, I mean, we'll get into all of that. So tell us, first of all, as we get into this conversation, Taita, Taveta, in terms of development, how have things been? We know what we see. We know conversations that we've had in this room about health, for example, and other things. But tell us, if you were to give an index report of how things have been going in the county over time, over the last 5 years, what would you say?
I would say that there has been some steps taken towards development. Devolution has definitely had an impact on the ground, but there's still a huge journey to be able to realize the aspirations of the people, to be able to realize the prosperity that they would all want to have, similar to what's happening in capital cities, for example. The last 5 years have been extremely challenging because we've had a number of matters happening globally and then internally within our country. Our economy hasn't been the best, and that has affected some of the disbursements coming into the counties. As I speak right now, there's delayed disbursements into all of the counties. However, that's not to excuse some of the matters that have been going on in the counties. We have to be honest with ourselves to say, this is what we've done, and this is what we may have not necessarily done in the most appropriate manner, and this is where we can do much better. So definitely in the sectors of health, definitely in the sectors of water, definitely in sectors of agriculture and supporting our citizens in terms of industrial development, we still have significant ways to go.
I mean, we talk about money not reaching the counties. This is something that everybody complains about. Money from National Treasury having delayed for whatever reason. And then this kind of, it strangles really county operations at the very neck of things, right? Can that be attributed, or rather, can the underdevelopment, which you obviously have highlighted, then be singly attributed to the delay of funds from the National Treasury?
For some counties, you can't exactly attribute it to the delay because some counties have appropriate levels of county local revenue to be able to support some of this development in the various sectors. However, in some of the more rural, and I'll call marginalized counties, a delay in disbursement means a delay in paying suppliers, means a delay in the suppliers being able to actualize some of the development projects that they've been engaged to carry out. A delay in the disbursement means delays in salary payments because there's no other money to supplement that particular activity. So it causes a huge challenge on county governments and their accounting departments to be able to streamline cash flow management, to be able to streamline some of the payments that need to be actualized for the suppliers to be able to go on with the development projects. So if we were talking about, for example, Nairobi or Mombasa or Nakuru or Kilifi even, these are counties that have significant local revenues, own source revenue. So when they have a slight delay, it's a bit easier on them. They're cushioned to some extent, not fully, in being able to do the basic minimums. But for our county, for example, Taita Taveta, we have a local own source revenue of between 250 and 300 million a year. And that means that it barely covers our salary budget.
Recurrent expenditure. Yeah.
Yes, for a month or two, right? So we have to rely on national government.
Your Excellency, what's the potential of the revenue of Taita Taveta County? Not what you collect, potential.
Potential. It's huge. If we were to... Yes, I can't quantify huge. I'm talking nyingi sana is what we would say.
Is it nyingi?
But what
Nyingi? Is it nyingi?
I would say it is this big. We're going to start saying how long is the length of a string, right? But it can only be actualized if we have industrialization within our counties. It can only be actualized if we start looking at what are the best ways of exploiting the comparative advantages of some of our counties. In Taita, we have large tracts of land. Huge. How huge is what would be asking,
Oh, I know how
right?
huge.
Yeah.
It's massive.
We would need to start actualizing on that potential in terms of livestock ranching, in terms of commercial irrigation and agriculture. We would need to have major investments within the mineral sector to be able to say that this potential has been actualized. But for now, it's a sleeping giant.
Right. So, go ahead.
No, please.
So, I mean, you said something, and to me, it just shouts out that, it should be the opposite, that we don't have any other source of revenue. So when we talk about own source revenue for a lot of counties is what you collect from licenses, business, etc. And that is only enough for recurrent expenditure, salaries, rents, and such, keeping the lights on and the water running where it runs. And so everything else, you're dependent on the national government. But the conversation that we're having today is about mineral resource, for which Taita Taveta is rich, untold. I mean, there's still some mineral deposits that have not even been found yet in this particular part of the country. So my question then is, shouldn't this be then where counties are looking to be able to then be self-sustaining and then even go into surplus? It's there. It's nobody has to say and start to think, where can we find it? It is there. So in terms of going in and saying, what can we do with these? Because I'm going to ask you, what are some of those mineral resources that we are talking about in the first place before we even jump the gun? What are some of the mineral resources that we're talking about that are available in Taita Taveta County, for example?
So in Taita Taveta, we have a number of minerals that are currently being exploited and a number of minerals that are yet to be explored so that we can quantify the mineral deposits and start exploiting them. We have a lot of gemstone mining activities. So this ranges from precious gemstones such as savarite to the less precious stones. We call them the lower value gemstones. I don't like to call them semi-precious because all gemstones are precious to me, that are being exploited by small-scale miners. We then have iron ore deposits and manganese deposits. But the potential for possibly copper, graphite, as well as additional expanding the manganese deposit footprint is large. However, mining is always a very difficult sector to understand because before you start benefiting from this mineral deposits, you have to look for them, you have to quantify them. And quantifying them is what brings the investors onto the ground. So as a country, first of all, even before we get to the county level, as a country, we must be able to complete our mineral survey that is going to quantify what mineral deposits we have across the country and where we need to be concentrating on our investor appeals to come in with exploration dollars, then fully map out this mineral deposits and start the mining activities.
Revenue sharing.
Yes.
What is the ratio that you have with the people who contribute to the revenue that you people have? Taita Taveta County is 17,000 84 kilometers square.
Yes.
10,649 of that is Savo East and West.
62%.
Precisely.
Uh-huh.
Now, so 7,000 or so, 6,000 point something is left for the Wananchi. The rest belongs to wildlife. Then you say you have minerals. We'll go into that in greater detail. Now, what understanding do you have with all these revenue sources about the sharing? Yes, there is what we know is instituted by the national government. Understood. But you as a county.
Now you ask a very complex question. And I
Yes,
say it's
indeed
complex.
I do.
So congratulations, CT. And I say it's complex because there's a number of resources that we need to be exploiting as a county. However, from the constitutional definition of what should go to the county and what should be managed by national government, our hands are slightly tied.
Yes.
So I will talk about, there's the mineral resources,
Yes.
there's the park, the national park, as you've just rightfully said, is 62% of our county. There's water resources. And if we look at those three sectors, so first of all, mineral resources are not devolved, which means that we have to rely on national government to be able to bring the share of revenue to the counties. From a national park perspective, the national park is again under KWS. It's not similar to Masai Mara. Masai Mara is controlled by Narok County government. It's a game reserve.
It is a reserve.
So we have been making a lot of pleas, advocating for the reversal of the national park and converting it into a national reserve so that the counties that are bounding Savo National Park enjoy the benefits, so that the 30% or 40% revenue share that needs to be managed by the county governments is actually accessed. Water is another resource that is not managed by the county in terms of revenue collection, if we could call it that. Mzima Springs is in Taita Taveta County.
It is.
The people of Taita Taveta are not enjoying the benefits fully of Mzima Springs.
No, they're not.
The water will stop off in Voi, in some villages in Voi. It doesn't go straight to some of the other villages that require this water desperately and goes straight to Mombasa. So we could say that even the revenue that is being paid for Mzima water should be coming to Taita Taveta County. There has to be a share of that revenue. But currently we're not seeing that happening. So with the park, we looked at two ways of accessing those benefits, the revenue benefits. Either we share the revenue that is being collected at the park gates, or we look at the land charges, because every single piece of land in Kenya has some rent or rate that is being paid.
Sure.
And if the county governments are in charge of rents and rates, then we should be able to charge KWS
And you don't.
some rent. And we can't. Not that we don't. We tried. We can't. Legally, we can't. So at one point in 2019, 2020, His Excellency the President mandated the county governments together with the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife to sit down and try and sort out some form of revenue sharing percentage. It was directed to the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, and currently the discussions are ongoing, but we have not come to a conclusion that would then suitably show the citizen how they'll be benefiting from this park.
Let's go to minerals, shall we?
Definitely.
When people talk of minerals, they talk about gemstones. Okay? I'm looking at your necklace.
Yes.
And I'm looking at that green thingamajig on your
Yes.
finger.
My favorite
Yes.
ring.
It's a ring, CT.
Not thingy magic.
You said thingy majig.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, that's what I said. Now, the green, is that a garnet?
Yes, it is.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
So, why are you looking
You
so
gotta
surprised?
respect a man who knows his precious stones.
Yes, yes. Lucky is the woman.
The necklace,
Yes.
does it represent some of the gemstones that we find in your neck of the woods?
It does. It's a ruby necklace. So there's ruby, what we call it is zoisite. It's the not very high quality, not the gem quality version of the precious ruby stone that we're all very used to.
We romanticize.
We exactly. And in gemstones, we say we always have to romance the stone.
Yes.
So you're not far off from what we... Because with every single gemstone, there's a unique quality that comes with it. In Taita Taveta, we have rubies, we have spinels, which are all of the pink variety. We have Savarite garnet, which is our most precious stone. On top of rubies, it's only found in the Savo, which is in Taita Taveta, and there's a few deposits that have been found in Tanzania and in Sri Lanka. So we are very proud that we have the stones situated in Taita Taveta. We also have other stones like tourmaline, kyanite, peridot. All of these need to be properly exploited. Red garnet as well.
Tanzanite.
Tanzanite is in Tanzania. We still haven't found very good deposits of Tanzanite in Kenya.
We don't have any?
I wouldn't want to say we don't have any. We haven't found them yet.
They haven't been found.
Yes.
So I mean, even as you say this, then I get a bit worried, because then we're talking about of 3 places in the world, the pink variety of some of these precious stones in Kenya, in Taita Taveta, is where one of 3 deposit sites of them globally.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is huge.
It is huge.
It's huge. And then some of the precious stones for which and when I say small, I'm not being insulting, but small, tiny companies in Europe are going all over the world shouting about deposits that don't even belong to them, but they're exploiting them and making billions in terms of dollars of what they can do, not countries, companies. So here we have a county where the deposits are there.
Yes.
We are aware that they are there. So the very simple question then becomes, even before we go to sharing between counties, what is being done so that this county then can benefit from it?
And this is why, again, I'll say there's a very big need for us as a government, both national and county governments, to focus on empowering the mineral sector and empowering it with information. Information will then bring in the investors that need to exploit these deposits. We can't say that as a county government we have the funds to fully exploit the mineral deposits around. However, in addition to exploiting these mineral resources, we need to start looking up the value chain. We need to start looking at how we're setting ourselves up for mineral beneficiation. These countries that we're saying are benefiting from all our mineral resources are benefiting because they have cutting houses. Some of them, thousands and thousands of them, situated in one particular region. I will equate it to our tea and coffee. I mean, Kenya is the best producer of teas and coffees, but who's getting the best value out of it? It's not us. And this is why you see county governments trying to set up shops in England, in America, saying that this is what we're going to do as counties to export our products. In Taita Taveta, we would want to be able to set up county mineral corporation, mining corporation, and this would enable us to direct channel funds to there for exploiting of these mineral resources, but most significantly be able to start empowering our youth and women in mineral beneficiation, the value addition, the cutting of stones, the development or the manufacture of necklaces such as what I'm wearing, because at the end of the day, we have to look at the synergies between the sectors. If the mineral resources are available and we're able to beneficiate them and we're able to link up to the tourism sector, this means that for everything that is being manufactured in the county, we have a ready market. And this is where we start exploiting.
What would it take to set up this very delightful thing that you've mentioned and this beautiful picture you've painted? What would it take?
It would take a cooperation between the county government and the national government to set up a value addition center. It would take up the better use of Uwezo funds, which you were discussing this morning, to go into women groups and youth groups to empower the businesses. I keep on saying we do not need more car washes for our youth.
No?
We do not need more motorcycles. Let's look at the actual resources that we have in these various areas and set up businesses that then generate these benefits that we're talking about.
What stops this synergy?
Nothing has stopped it. And I was being very coy in my statement of saying we need the county government and national government to come together and collaborate. Coy in the fact that it has already been done. There's a Voi Gemstone Value Addition Center that has been set up in Taita Taveta. And as we speak, it is not fully operational.
Why?
It's a question that we have asked the Cabinet Secretary of Petroleum and Mining, that we've asked even His Excellency the President to come and fully operationalize the center for the benefit of the people of Kenya, not even the people of Taita Taveta. Because once you have some of these centralized hotspots, this is what attracts buyers to our counties. So currently we have it in place. We have it equipped with gemstone cutting machines, gemstone valuing equipment, but it's not being
Training
fully...
of personnel?
Training of personnel is currently happening.
Where?
In that particular building, and training of small-scale miners is being done by various associations. Here is where I give a shout-out to Association of Women in Extractives, of which I'm a founder member. They've been training a lot of women to try and see how they can get additional value from the gemstones. So the personnel need to be put into the gemstone center. The county government has about 3 gemologists who can be loaned to the national government, if need be, to assist with operations in that particular center. But currently we haven't had it launched. And it was finished off in 2018, and we're still waiting for it to be launched.
Are we going on to a break?
Yes, we are, because, we need to dig into this a little bit more, no pun intended, because I fail to understand how you can have everything in place, but then there's just no push. And so then one has to ask, is there a political element involved in all of this?
Definitely.
It's 7:30 on the nose. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Our guest in the studio this morning is the Deputy Governor of the Taita Taveta County. And we're saying, look, own source revenue is not enough. What comes from the national government, when it comes, still not enough. But you're sitting you're sitting on a gold mine, literally, in terms of what can be done for this county and other counties. And so what's the political handle in all of this?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues. And our guest this hour is the Deputy Governor of Taita Taveta County, MAJALA MLAGUI. And this morning we're talking about, look, we're looking for the money, and it's looking for sustenance for the country and counties, and we're sitting on it, basically. And that conversation continues. And Siti, I know you had a question before we went to break.
I do, actually. We've moved from gemstones. We now want to look at other minerals. The Deputy Governor mentioned very clearly that they have iron ore and they have magnesium. Let's leave magnesium aside for the time being. I want to focus on iron ore. Taita Taveta has massive deposits of iron ore, massive. And iron ore has been mined in that county for well over a decade. How exactly does the county benefit from this?
So we have good deposits of iron ore.
Excellent deposit.
And we welcome your investment in the sector as well. We had a company called MAJALA Mines that was exploiting this resource for quite a while, actually, maybe 10 or 20 years, more than 20 years, actually.
Yes.
Not 10 or 20. And that particular license was shifted to a new company. And because of community social license, as well as understanding of how county government needed to get its share of cess charges paid to them, there's an ongoing court case. That particular mine was recovering maybe about 1 million tons of iron ore a year annually. That was their
How many?
1 million tons of iron ore.
Wow.
And that's not that significant. There's more deposits to be exploited. So you're very right that we do have a very good deposit of iron ore. In some places, they've said it's about 62% iron content within the ore, which is very good quality.
Excellent quality.
Global quality.
Yes.
Global quality. And with the rising prices of iron ore internationally, right now would have been reaping huge benefits from that particular mineral resource. However, the last 2-3 years, all has stagnated in that particular area. We're not receiving any of the cess charges that the county government would be levying on that particular company. And of course, if they're not as operational as we expected them to be, then the royalties to national government that would then flow back to the county and community are also impacted.
Okay.
Now I want to mention something.
Okay.
And I'm going to read it so that it isn't me sort of like stargazing. Huh?
Okay.
As of March this year,
Yes.
Iron ore was valued at approximately $151.2 per metric ton.
Yes. Up from what it was around 50 to 60
Yes.
in 2018.
Precisely.
So double the price.
Yes. So now, if you do the maths of what has been mined over time, this is US dollars. You say a million tons? Yes.
1 million tons.
Just add a million to that, and you have 151 million US dollars over that period of time.
Yeah.
Do the maths and multiply it, and you realize we're talking about a colossal amount of money.
Very true.
So the value addition that we were speaking of earlier with regards to gemstones, we have steel rolling mills in the country.
Yes.
Many.
One is actually being set up in the neighboring county, Kwale, in the Samburu area.
Yes.
They have a place called Samburu.
I do know. I do
that
know.
area.
I do know.
Okay.
Samburu, Taru.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Why I'm a dog with a bone on this one is because county government seems to be shackled. There are things that they cannot do, and our constitution stipulates with clarity that they must have a nod from the national government. They must also have a nod from the Senate and Parliament. Easy to understand, but it is doable. I know it is doable because Laikipia County, actually, they floated an infrastructure bond because they wanted to borrow 1.6 billion Kenya shillings. They were given a nod. National government said, okay. National government stood surety. Parliament said, okay. So they are now able to get that money to use for whatever they purposed it for. SMEs, small businesses, and so forth. Now, that's Laikipia County. Taita Taveta, we started off by talking about just the resources it has. It has ranches. So does Laikipia.
True.
It has mineral resources. Laikipia doesn't have those mineral resources as of now. It has wildlife. Laikipia has some, but Taita Taveta has it in abundance. What am I saying? If you're talking about natural resources that could be used as collateral, Taita Taveta has it in spades. They even have some to spare. They could even lend some counties some of their resources. Now, it's an avenue that can be pursued. Has the county pursued it?
We haven't yet. And I have to say that the example that Governor Nderitu and Deputy Governor John Mwaniki have set for other devolved units is very good. And it's one that needs to be emulated in terms of ensuring that county governments have the appropriate staff capacity, economists, researchers, statisticians,
Yes.
that's the word, who are able to look at the best ways of formulating some of these matters. I agree that we have the collateral that would be required for some of these infrastructure bonds or what would we call it, mineral deposit bonds. However, we need a team of people to be able to sit down and really analyze what is the best way to move this forward, because getting it passed by Senate, getting it passed by National Parliament, getting it passed by even Treasury is no mean feat and takes a pretty hard slog to be able to get to the point of approval, because these are public funds that we're talking about. These are people's lives that we would be significantly impacting if something were to go wrong. But granted, it's very true that we have an opportunity to start thinking about how do we utilize the unexploited mineral deposits to be able to push to the direction of a bond. What I would say would be very critical for a county such as ours that has limited funds to expend on exploitation is national government coming in and completing the mineral survey, getting us the data that would then be able to have us sit down and present this to the World Banks, to the IFCs, as something that can be developed into the bond that even Laikipia has created.
I mean, the benefit is clearly evident in terms of what it would do for the county and then for the country. So then the question is, why would anyone, it doesn't matter whether it was coming from the national standpoint or anybody who then would be able to smooth things out even at the county level, it doesn't show then clearly why anybody would want to stall the process. So then the first thing that my mind goes to is that, is there a political hand being played here as to why we just can't get this thing moving?
We are a country of politicians.
Indeed.
from the market level all the way to the exact office that it lies in, His Excellency the President's level. It's all political. So if we look at us as Kenyans as political animals, then definitely some of the goodwill that's required to push some of these matters forward requires significant push by the leaders in political office. There may be some requirement of streamlined agitation by the leaders of this area, joint voices being placed, lobbying and putting a lot of pressure. So by this, I mean all of the 4 MPs, actually, let me call them 6, including the county women representative and the senator, because they all sit in parliament, including the governor, myself as the deputy governor, and any other political leader, former and vying, to come together in one voice and push for some of these matters. Other regions have been able to do it. And if we truly need the national goodwill to be able to open up our region, then definitely we need to work together as a team.
You know, the time for this is now, actually.
It is.
Because if that caucus you speak of were formed and you started putting your case across to the presidential candidates, because these are the people you actually want to put it to, because whoever leads the government will have a huge say on some of these things. This is the time, because everyone wants to come to you for support.
Yes.
So if they do want your support, should they not also look into things that would be of interest to your county? And again, as I say, if there are negotiations to take place, it's not when a government is formed. That one, the horse will have bolted. It's now.
Yeah.
Yes. So
That's true.
have you begun that conversation now with these erstwhile candidates that we have?
We have.
How's that going?
I sit within the Azimio coalition. I'm a member of the Wiper Democratic Movement, and I'm currently vying for the Member of Parliament of Motati constituency, specifically to bring this voice to national parliament. And we have brought it up with His Excellency, the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, together with Her Excellency Martha Karua. I'm very glad to use that title for her.
I can see your face having lit up on your
yes,
totally.
She actually beamed.
We've brought it to the table on them, and you can see in the Azimio manifesto that mining and manufacturing using mineral resources is part of the key priorities that they've presented to the Kenyan people. And as a county, I would want to see that we've definitely started looking at better exploitation of these minerals between county government and national government. His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga has not on 1 or 2 occasions, multiple occasions, come to the county and specifically iterated that his government will be at the forefront of pushing mineral exploitation in Kenya. So I'm confident of that.
One would think, and you can stop me if I'm wrong, but one would think that here you are in the position of deputy governor at the county, a pretty powerful seat, number 2 in terms of county operations. And it's a 1-term administration,
Yes.
seeking a 2nd term, obviously in the name of Governor Granton Samboja, but saying we're going to seek another one, right? One would ask, then why would you leave and go to the representative level to kind of push this same agenda?
I think we are all very alive to the relationships that governors and deputy governors have had in Kenya over the past 10 years of devolution. It's not been the rosiest of times for most of deputy governors in Kenya. And I have not escaped that. And I felt that it was necessary for me to bring my voice to Parliament. One, to look at the 2/3 gender rule requirement, actualizing it through elective politics. And 2, to start addressing these matters that I think are of national importance at a level that I think I can be most effective. As a deputy governor, I have raised these matters over and over again with the cabinet secretary, with the principal secretary, with the roundtable at the Council of Governors. However, because minerals are not devolved, you find there's a lot of pushback. That political will just isn't there. So I believe in service to the people. And I believe that where you feel that you can be most effective, then move. Because again, it's all service to the people. So I felt that I would be most value to my country as a member of parliament rather than continuing as deputy governor.
Okay. So it might get a bit sticky in terms of this, but then are you essentially saying that the top seat in the county, with you assisting, whether or not the relationship was good or not, then really doesn't meet the needs of representation when it comes to what ought to be done in the county.
I think the top seat definitely does have the capability and the capacity to meet the needs of the people. It's a different set of needs that the top seat is looking at. So, as we said before, the agricultural sectors, the water sector, health sector, and I'm looking at how can we better represent various other sectors that this country desperately needs to be actualized.
There's something that you mentioned in passing. I'd like us to pursue it for a while. Human resource capacity. Let's look at how people are employed in the county systems. Do your experience, do we pursue competence or do we pursue chronism? You smile.
I smile because the answer is in the air. We are meant to be pursuing competence. We should be hiring by merit and on merit. However, we're, again, living in a political world. Kenya is very political. And because some of these seats are elective, it means that there's a lot of political goodwill that is required from the citizens. Right now, wherever I walk, people ask me, as deputy governor, how many people have you employed as MAJALA?
Yes,
Not
your
as
people,
a county government.
No, your people.
Yes.
Yes.
And not from Taita Taveta, from my village, from my backyard.
But why do they ask that question?
Because they feel that they require to be empowered by the person who's closest to them.
Yes.
So it's an element of chronism, but it's an element of the state of our country. The fact that we have such high levels of unemployment.
Yes. And why is employment, do you think, such a big factor?
It's a big factor. Well, first of all, government employment is such a big factor because people feel that that is where there's guaranteed salaries. There's hopefully permanent and pensionable jobs. There's other benefits that could be accrued from there more than in the private sector. But if you were to ask me, I would say that it's best to set up a business environment that brings in this private sector jobs rather than public sector jobs. Public sector should be very lean. Industrialization and other service sector jobs is where we need to be focusing to be able to push our country and our counties
But
forward.
for people to understand this, they need to experience it. I mean, if the largest employer is still the government, and there aren't enough industries or enterprises that employ people, despite the vast resources that a county like Taita Taveta has, people will still focus on what they have known from time immemorial.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if indeed the things that we're saying, I ask the question because it is the human resource capacity that will enable this next step to be taken. Instead of just looking at how people can get employed, it's how you create value so that this is something that is not just ongoing, but that very capacity is also enhanced within that very, very, very county.
And I think where you're leaning towards is that we need more of quality rather than quantity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what the
People, who when given a task, you have a near guarantee that they will see it through.
Yes, definitely.
Not talk at it or talk with it.
And hasn't that been the issue that we've seen over time? It doesn't matter whether we're talking about mineral resources in a county. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about education or health or infrastructure, whatever it is that we seem to talk to or at an issue rather than get our hands dirty and actually do the work that is required.
And I think part of that is, again, back to the issue that we're very political as a country, meaning a lot of the things that need to get done require significant political goodwill rather than looking at what are the actual outcomes that we're driving for. What are the KPIs that we need to be focusing and targeting towards the progress that we'd like to see. We don't have the consequences that are required to enable people to see that they must do a good job in implementing the laws, in being able to do the work that is required at county and national level. If we had those consequences, then some of these matters of corruption and ineptitude that we're seeing across the board would not be existing.
You know, when you quote Governor Muriithi of Laikipia, is an example of a leader who understands this very thing we're saying. Now, we've said it in this studio, it sounds a little off, but I'm going to say it anyway. For those who are inclined towards pilfering, when you enhance the capacity and you exploit fully the resources of any county, there is more to steal.
Well, yes, you do increase the share of the pie.
There's more to go round if
Yeah.
you want to sanitize what's it's just
Yes.
Yes. So that's just to get my point across.
Yeah.
And when there's more, everybody gets more. So the poverty levels that drive our people to these low expectancies and to sell birthrights for pittance in the name of poverty, because that's the reality they live with on a daily basis, you'll eliminate it. So it's unfortunate, but it gets one to the point where one feels that those who aspire for leadership aspire to continuously and religiously diminish the capacities of their own people. Because if they didn't, then with every electoral cycle, we'd see the livelihoods of individuals improving right across the country, especially with the default systems. But we don't see that.
Siti, you're the philosopher in this room. And I think you may be able to tell me which philosopher said this, but there's something about ruling. You need to keep the masses poor to be able to rule them for the benefit of the upper echelons of society, which I feel is the most retrogressive and most heartbreaking thing that we could ever do for Kenya. We truly need to empower every single person from the bottom level all the way up to our levels here, because we're sitting in privileged situations. So we need to start seeing consequences and the application of our laws for this corruption matters, for anything that is taking us backward rather than pushing our economy forward. Now, I know I had also wanted to talk about the mineral revenue distribution and just one little matter that we need to address. Today we have National Treasury talking about a framework of distribution of mineral royalty revenues to counties and communities. The law that was enacted in 2016 stated that 70% needs to go to national government and 20% to county intent communities. As we speak today, there's no instrument that is available to do that. That is 6 years later.
yeah.
The framework that is being proposed today gives some flesh to the process that needs to be enacted, but it still requires Parliament intervention in terms of the development of a legal instrument. This may take another 1 year or 2 years, depending on the 13th Parliament and the caliber of people and the interests therein. So we need to start desperately getting the citizens themselves advocating and pushing their legislators, their county governments to ensure these matters are implemented. Like I said previously, we're a country that is very political, but we also have a lot of laws that are the best
Done well,
in Africa, but we don't implement them.
All right. The clock is running down, and obviously you said that you're giving yourself up and for a member of parliament.
1 in 10 candidates, only women.
Only
in
women,
Motake.
1 in 10
Yes.
candidates. And so really quickly, how do you hope to see this kind of change brought about by this?
First of all, the fact that I'm one of the only women running in this particular constituency, I believe that shows a good show of the strength of women leadership. But secondly, having someone who understands both national and county government operations sitting in parliament brings a wealth of value to that particular parliament, because this means I can both cooperate with the county government and push the ministries in the manner that is required. So I believe my candidature will be one of the best in bringing about the prosperity that we want to see in our various regions in Kenya.
MAJALA MLAGUI, Deputy Governor Taita, Taveta County, thank you for being in the Situation Room this morning. We hope to see you again.
Definitely.